Hello everyone and welcome to a special episode where we're going to be featuring a much longer description of something that a moment, because we're going to be discussing a lot of variations of what could have happened in the game but didn't. So it's not so focused on the game itself. Now you'll notice that this is a game between Bratchedkata and RXBXN. This was a seasonals game. He had Aphelios 5 versus Burn Aggro Elise. So let's get into the game. The first 2.5 turns are pretty straightforward, very straightforward mulligan. Get the expensive, useless cards out of the way. And in this matchup, so to be clear, the opponent's deck wants to curve out, get as much damage with their units in as possible, and then do the rest of it with burn, as a normal burn aggro deck would. And our goal is to heal. So first take as little damage from the curve phase and then heal when we can. The problem with the healing is that a lot of our healing comes from lifesteal, and they have a lot of shadow blocking units or formats such as Glimpse Beyond and Noxian Fervor. And I will discuss a bit more about that in a moment. So let's just get through the first 2 rounds, get to round 3. Aphelios is obviously a very critical card in the matchup because it provides a lot of, it provides everything that you need between blockers, healing, removal, everything pretty much. So we did find it, which does help a lot. In fact, this game might have been almost unwinnable without Aphelios, maybe even completely unwinnable. I'm not sure. I didn't actually calculate lines without Aphelios. I thought it was a great highlight match to feature and describe Aphelios, and so I focused on him. So you'll see that our opponent has a very, very scary board once they play the Stygian Onlooker. And so we play Aphelios. And now if you look in this position, our opponent has effectively 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 damage on the board, and you can block 3 or 4 damage while taking favorables, and then so we'll be taking quite a bit of damage. But the most important thing is, in this position, what moon weapon do you pick? You can pause the video, give it a moment, and now you can pick the most intuitive one. Right now, the most intuitive one is actually the correct one. But I also want you to take this moment to also visualize the possible sequences of moon weapons, how you use them, and what the rest of the game will look like. So here, I'll play it a little bit so you can see the hand, I guess. So, okay. So, sorry. Here you can see the board. Take this moment to really think about how you would approach rounds 4, 5, and 6. Right now, you can accurately visualize almost the entirety of the next critical rounds, and also think about what you lose to. Now, if you've taken a moment to think about it, I will now reveal to you the first intuitive answer. It is Crescendum. He is mousing over. He actually doesn't pick Crescendum. He picks Calibrum. The intuitive answer is Crescendum because 1, it draws a card. 2, it gives you the same result as Calibrum at least, because it's a 3 attack blocker. And they don't have any real good way. They don't have anything that answers a blocker better than they would answer Calibrum. It's just a better Calibrum in every way. You're never really gonna phase it into Gravitum. You're always gonna want to phase into either Calibrum or Severum, because those are the best ways of winning on the board. And so what happens is that on round 4, you're going to play Crescendum. You're going to have an extra blocker. And also, another benefit of playing Crescendum over Calibrum is that developing a unit rather than removing one means that they can't actually develop extra units. So let's say we have 4 blockers and they have 6 attackers, right? The alternative, if we remove 1 unit of theirs, they can just replace it. If we add a blocker, they're only going to have 1 attacker that won't be blocked, right? So the thing is, it won't be possible for them to just replace it, whereas we're not going to be going wide enough to match that. So Crescendum is always better here. Now, again, to visualize the rest of the rounds, 4, 5, and 6, we're going to be playing Crescendum round 4, and we're going to be playing Ballistic Bot as well. Ballistic Bot first, because well, we can see what they do. We can also give our ballistic bots an extra attack for better fearsome blockers. And then we can phase either Calibrum or Severum. The way we go about that, you'll see, is that Severum isn't really that great. I mean Calibrum, because the answers to Calibrum is also the same as the answers to basically Severum, which is to Fervor or Glimpse, in our, for example, just to cancel the effects. So in the end, Severum is just better, and the difference is that on for example, the attack turn, you might want to have Severum, but it's going to be the same. They'll still be able to cancel it the same way. And so what you actually want to do is to have Infernum, so that you have Overwhelm on your lifesteal unit, so that they can't shadow block it. But the key here is that in order for that to be the case, you have to commit a decent amount of mana into your lifesteal unit. To make that actually possible, you have to have enough health to allow you to do that. For example, I'll give you a scenario. Imagine a scenario where you have 5 health and 5 mana. Your opponent has, well, let's say 20 health and 5 mana. The board is empty. You have 2 cards in your hand. You have Solari Sunforger and Star Shaping. So because you have 5 health, the highest amount of damage they can deal with one card is 4 damage. They could play Decimate, so you can play Sunforger, heal for 5. If it's Decimate, you're at 6 health, you have a unit on board, and then you can play Star Shaping after. If you had 1 less health, if you had 4 HP, then you can't play Sunforger, because they could just play Decimate and you lose. So just by having 1 extra health, you can just see how big the difference is. So it's really important to have just you can use health as a resource, but it's really, really important to have just enough health so that you can commit a turn to life stealing and not worry about having to die to burn. And then you can save your cards like Star Shaping or Get Excited, etc. But you can't really do that if you don't have enough health. So you do have to preserve enough health until that time. And so what you can do is use Severum on the defense turn, in other words, round 5, the only attack token they have between now and round 7, basically, to basically either force them to have 3 mana for Noxian Fervor, or force them to lose most of their attacking power, or even cancel their attack entirely. Another thing in this position is that I actually prefer blocking the Spiderling instead of the Precious Pet with the Aphelios, because if they have what's it called, the Nightfall card that drains 1, Unspeakable Horror, they could it's basically like making another attacker, or like a 3/1 attacker or a 3/2 attacker, because it kills our Aphelios, which would have been able to block a unit and generate a moon weapon. So basically, it's really risky. The payoff is better. It is better payoff if they choose to not use Unspeakable Horror on our Aphelios, but it does save us the extra health. And now in this position, now that we'll follow up in the game, and you'll see that because we picked Calibrum, if our opponent were to, for example, develop somehow, it actually ends up being, well, worse. We could have the gem. We could have an extra gem, which would be really good, because if we get the gem, then we could play the gem before we play Severum, which means they can't use Unspeakable Horror to counter, for example, our Severum if we choose to use it on a 1 health unit like our Ballistic Bot. Of course, that would go for round 6 rather than now. Anyways, I hope it makes sense why Crescendum is just better here. It takes a card out of your deck. It does at least the same amount as Calibrum. It doesn't really give them the opportunity to use Glimpse here either. So they would... Glimpse isn't even that good for them. If they had Unspeakable Horror, they should have just used it on Aphelios. Fortunately, we did get the Severum before that happened, and we did draw Star Shaping, which is really, really good. And now in this position, you'll see that they could have, for example, threats like Noxian Fervor or Glimpse Beyond. So I actually prefer just playing Severum on this Ballistic bot right now, because, well, the only way to counter that would be to use Noxian Fervor, and, well, you can counter that with Get Excited, but they won't actually use it to counter it. So actually, because they won't use it to counter, you could play it. Okay, my bad. No. You play the Ballistic bot first in this position, because they're not going to use Noxian Fervor to counter Severum. They'll just use it after attacking, so it serves as shadow blocking, basically. So if you play Ballistic Bot, then they have to develop something, and then when they develop, they won't even be able to shadow block anymore, unless of course it's Glimpse Beyond, in which case it's a lot less scary than Noxian Fervor, because you don't have to counter it. So in this position, it's just Ballistic Bot into Severum. On this Ballistic Bot. Because right now, if you play Ballistic Bot and they don't develop, then you're not scared of this attack at all. So he plays this because he was thinking that if the opponent plays Skitterer or or something like that, then he'll be able to block with block the fearsomes even with his Ballistic bots, because he's triggering the augments. Or if they develop, or if they just attack now, then he can play Fangs after. Now, this, I don't like that, because if you just play another blocker in the Ballistic bot, then you can just tank less damage anyway, and then you can always play Fangs after. So at this point, we're dropping into territory which is going into what I mentioned earlier. You have to have enough health to actually be able to play your lifesteal units. So as I mentioned before, the way you want to be planning this is that you want to be, if possible, using Infernum in order to guarantee your lifesteal, so they can't shadow block. The problem with this is that we don't actually have lifesteal around. We have to play essentially Severum into Ignition or something, and that means we would have to pay 5 mana total in order to actually have all of the lifesteal. In which case we can't do that, because we only have 5 health, and we have to have Star Shaping in case they play Decimate plus Unspeakable Horror, or Decimate plus Noxian Fervor, etc. So in this position, obviously you have to play Fangs now. Moonsilver, just to reduce the cost of the options I mentioned. So I mean, we would have had a bit more health. Having a bit more health here would have been even better than playing the Fangs, because we could just commit to lifesteal, and they wouldn't be able to burn us out. And also, we would have a healthier Ballistic bot that we wouldn't have to worry about getting Unspeakable Horde. And he actually picked Gravitum as well, which he's probably not going to get an opportunity to play. But the thing about Infernum is that if you're not going to play it this round, it's pretty useless anyway. So Gravitum is relatively fine. Now, I actually preferred just using the discount on it, actually. I guess. Well, I guess it doesn't show the information, but the difference is that So the thing is, he chose not to attack right away, because he was afraid of Decimate plus Unspeakable Horror, or Decimate plus Noxian Fervor. Well, actually, Noxian Fervor is not that scary because we can answer it, but so that he could have Moon Glow or whatever it's called for star shaping. So in this position, our opponent actually plays double Noxian Fervor to shadow block both lifesteals, which allows us to get excited to one of them. And he actually miscalculates his mana and thinks that he has 5 mana. And ends up discounting the get excited and then realizing he only had 4 mana, which is interesting. But anyways, so now he's actually down to 2 health, and this isn't going great. So, but anyways, now he has a second Aphelios, which could potentially help. And they do have the Unspeakable Horror, which they really don't want to use it on our Aphelios. I don't even know. I wasn't hand tracking, but they probably could have used it to kill Aphelios much sooner, which would have been good for them. I'm not sure if that 1 damage is that good. So here, I mean, you obviously pass. Yeah, I don't know if they had an Unspeakable Horror the whole time. They should have used it on round 4, but I guess they chose to. They might have got it from Glimpse or later draw. I can't see the opponents. Oh, they had a second Unspeakable Horror. That's why they used it on Nexus. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So now in this position, you just pass again. He plays the Gravitum, and I'm not actually sure why you would play it here. Maybe he wanted to cycle it into something else, but here you just pass. You can cycle it into like Infernum next round and do the same thing with the and get the lifesteal one from the second Aphelios you have in your hand. But he plays Gravitum now and actually gets punished for it because our opponent got a. Because right now they have 2 Nightfall cards. It's almost impossible for them to have lethal next round. Actually, I think it is impossible unless they play something. So here, he got let himself put down to 3 health. So again, he's in danger of decimate top decks. So he has to open attack, which is bad. If he were to save Gravitum, then he could have committed to the lifesteal plan this round because they only have 1 card from their deck. So now he goes for the Calibrum to remove this 2/3. He actually missed out on a free Moon Weapon, but it doesn't actually matter because you want to play the Moon Weapons on your tag token anyway, so he's not going to play all of them. It doesn't actually matter. I mean, you just play the goat and then shoot the elusive unit. Obviously. You can pick Gravitum here because Severum isn't really useful on your defense turn here because you can get it from the Aphelios champion card if you need it. So here they play Elise. You can ignore it. You can just pass and see what else they choose to do. You can even just play. You can even play Ignition. Doesn't really matter. Fangs works too, actually. I forgot he had the second Fang. So yeah, he plays it for the extra lifesteal blocker, but he doesn't need to. I would just pass or play Ignition. If they play anything that's scary to block, you can deal with it. You have all the blockers you need. So here they play Skitter, which and has a lot of fearsome, and now in this position, the obvious play is to ignore the fearsomes, rely on your removal because you know they have an empty hand, so all of your removal will connect, and just give your ballistic bot lifesteal because that thing will heal for 10 and it will deal with every threat you could possibly have. I have no idea why he put it on the fangs. I mean, even putting it on the mountain goat is better. I mean, you know, he noticed the mistake right after he did it. Yeah, these blocks are perfectly good. Putting him at 7 health is extremely safe. So now you'll see that there was a lot of moments where he made small mistakes, but the thing is, I want you what I wanted to teach you here is that the moment you play Aphelios, you should already see a rough plan of how the entire game is gonna go, because right now, the second you pick Crescendum and plan out that you're gonna have Severum into Infernum rounds 5 and 6, you've already pretty much won the game because there's very few hands that they could have that you lose to. As long as your Ophelio survives, then you can get the Severum to prevent a lot of damage. And as I said, it's better to prevent yourself from going low because it gives you so much leeway to take such better value and tempo plays because you don't have to worry about burn. And then you can concern yourself with lower tempo plays stabilizing when they don't have any threats on the board. That's when you focus on healing. So, and then you should look at Infernum. You should curve into Infernum on the attack token because you're going to be able to combine it with Fangs. All you need to do is have enough health to allow you to do it. So you just look to curve Crescendum into Severum for defense, and then Infernum for aggressive healing because they can't shadow block. That's what I want you to take away from this. Curving into Calibrum is actually not bad either, but the key is that, well, first of all, starting with Calibrum is just way worse than Crescendum. You wanna, and also in this moment here, it's really important to, on round 5, it's actually, after rethinking it, it's really important to get the extra blocker. Playing the extra ballistic bot is incredibly strong because they only have 5 attackers and none of them have any special keywords or very scary attack powers. So you can pretty much just get all the blocks. So at this point, if you play the ballistic bot, they're threatening, I think, like 4 damage. And if you're at 6 HP, that's a pretty good place to go into round 6 with. Actually, my bad. They're threatening 2 damage. You'll be at 8 HP if you let your Aphelios die, and then you can you can do your thing next round. So with 8 health, assuming, or actually no, wait, you can tank 1 extra damage, but I'm actually not sure how exactly you do it. No, you tank 3 damage. So you tank the 2 spiderlings if they were to attack. You tank 2 spiderlings, go to 7, and then you can aggressively lifesteal, and you can counter Decimate plus Noxian Fervor with Get Excited. You can have enough mana for that. So what you do here is you play the Ballistic Bot. If they develop, then you play Severum, and then they can't really Shadow Block unless they play a 2-drop plus exactly Glimpse Beyond, which is both less likely and also not as threatening as if you were to just play Ignition, because Ignition puts you much lower and then gives your opponents much more threats. This turn is very, very critical. His odds of winning would have been way higher if he just played Ballistic Bot, and the other thing is it would have been way better for him if he just played Crescendum here. Those are the 2 main moments I want you to take away from that, and then I want you to remember to be looking to plan your game. It's really important to plan your game, understand how the game will most likely transform in the future, and you want to be already prepared for that 3 rounds in advance, because then you know that this is something I was aware would probably happen, and I have the perfect answer for this situation. All right, that's how you should be thinking, and that's what will win you more games. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, drop a comment, ask any questions, maybe a decision I didn't cover or explain enough. You can suggest games. You can I say you can subscribe if you want to be notified, but I don't think you actually get notified unless you press the bell, which I've never done personally. Anyways, but thank you for watching. I hope you learned from this. I think this was very important. I actually analyzed this game for hours, not actively, but usually just when I'm not doing anything. And I actually changed my mind on what the best play was multiple times, partly because I didn't remember the game correctly, but you know, I can't rewatch the game while I'm trying to sleep. See you guys next time.